Fucking hate Squid Game.
Fuck, I'm boycotting it, mate.
What
The second season? Yeah.
Yes. Fuck it. Do you know what? To be fair, I didn't even finish the first one.
I haven't even seen the first season.
Are you not?
It's shit. Take that shit elsewhere, mate.
Yeah. Fuck it.
Get that out of the fucking club. I'm Squid Game out.
Hashtag Squid Game out. I think we should just leave that in and start with that. Just leave that in. Fuck Squid Game.
Yeah, fuck it. Let's go. Let's start. Right. Stick to football.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to Dare and Doing. I'm Will Hester and I'm joined by the brilliant Ben Bowman. Ben, it's been ages.
I know it's been like 2
fucking
weeks.
Ages.
We missed when we won a game. We missed the games we won.
I know. It's so annoying.
I bet people are like, oh, they're fucking. Some people are like, I don't want to talk about it when we don't win. It's like, no, we don't talk about it when we do win.
Yeah, exactly.
We just ignore the games when we win it. But
mate, it was so annoying because I would have loved to sort of revel in the dopamine from the 2 win. We've been starved of a win.
Yeah,
and then we win Southampton and Man United and no Dare and Doing pod.
Yeah.
So
sorry guys.
Maybe me being in Poland is like good luck.
Yeah, go back.
Maybe I need to go
I was
back.
going to say go back to Poland, but you can't say that.
You can't say that.
You can't say that.
To be fair, mate, Poland was sick and it was a nice little distraction. And
yeah, nice, mate.
I was going to ask, how's your Christmas shopping? You still got any Christmas shopping to do? 2 days left.
I think I'm done. I actually think I'm done. To be fair, like me and she might be listening to this. Hopefully, she hasn't got anything secret. But me and my girlfriend aren't doing presents. We're not doing presents with my family. I had to buy presents for like the nieces and nephews and that, but that was it really. But one thing I will say, and she is on the other side of that door, probably listening. But my girlfriend, against my wishes, without consulting me, decided to not buy a turkey. So I had to fucking sort it out, didn't I? So I had to go and get that. That is one of the things I did have to go out and buy.
Yeah.
Because
I bet that was hard in the butchers as well. I bet everyone was there.
Oh mate, it was only
everyone and their nans going up.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. When was that? That was like last week. It was the day of the United game. Actually, I went out and bought a turkey. Well, I didn't buy a turkey because nobody else really likes it. It's just me, so I bought like just a turkey like breast thing. Just from I bought 2 actually because I thought I'll just fucking have loads of it. I just have loads.
2 breasts are better than 1, aren't they?
Exactly. I'm more of a breast guy anyway.
I've had a nightmare because today I've been doing last minute shopping. I've got a day less because my girlfriend's Polish, so they celebrate Christmas Eve.
Oh right.
So like I've just been sweating.
That's quite a big European thing, though, isn't it? That's quite a big European thing.
I think we're the only ones. I think like UK and America is like that.
Yeah. I feel like Denmark is Christmas Eve
on 25th.
Yeah, I feel like you're right.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, but yeah, it's just been a nightmare. Like last minute shopping. This is like my Christmas Eve before the chaos.
Right.
And,
yeah. Well, mate, anybody goes out today, you need to be like a fucking like the Tesco Warriors are out today, aren't they?
Oh, mate, yeah. 100%. I had a nightmare, but I'm glad I'm here. I just got wrapping to do in the evening. I've had this morning. I opened Julia's like presents. Yeah. And I got her. She's been like stressing recently, so I thought I'll get her like a Stitch like weighted teddy bear,
nice
for when she's like stressed, when she like lies down, and because her sister loves Stitch, and like it's like a sentimental thing. I was in Zakopane and we saw this thing, and I was like, oh, I nearly bought that. Thank God I didn't, because that looks shit. It was like this like Stitch toy that like was breathing and shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but you like Stitch, don't you? She was like, no, fucking, why the fuck would I like Stitch? And I was like, oh shit, that's your main present. So like when that came, it came this morning, and it was the thing that breathes. I got the wrong thing.
Oh,
it was the exact same thing that we looked at, and we were like, oh, that's fucking disgusting.
Oh shit.
And so I like had to like emergency, let's go shopping and get something else.
What did you get?
Which well, she might be listening.
Yeah. Keep on the download.
No, she never listens to these. Yeah. Yeah, I'll reveal it next after the boxing game.
Yeah, after Forest.
But yeah, when we're reviewing the Forest loss, Nuno absolutely outclasses Postecoglou.
Yeah. Could you
I'll reveal it then. But yeah, a bit chaotic, and I've got wrapping to do. But yeah, on to onto the Spurs games. I want to touch base, with the actual wins because we haven't had any. Like, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I feel like everything's been covered. But I want to suck up as much dopamine as possible. What were your takeaways from Southampton and Man United? Because like the Southampton game came at a really good time for us.
Yeah,
and I think what it did, it proved that the players were still with Postecoglou, which is like a massively positive sign when we're going through a really tough spell. And there's a lot of noise around Spurs at the moment.
Yeah.
And I know Southampton were woeful, but like that is promising. That's what you want to see. You want to see a team that's fighting for your manager because as soon as that goes, you're fucked. And you just But the United game, it was so frustrating because even in the victory, we were brought down by the narrative being forced by the media that we're like self-destructing. Though what I tweeted as well, like, everyone and their nan, except mine, she passed away this summer, RIP. Everyone and their nan, like, they're speaking about the narrative of like Spursy. Oh my God, this is so Spurs. All this stuff. And they didn't give us any like acknowledgement when we fought off that comeback from Man United. When everything looked like it was gonna like crumble, and we did pretty much, but it wasn't Postecoglou. It was forced to like giving away 2 goals, and they didn't. They refused to acknowledge the fact that we scored another and we won that game. But when we won, it was still being patronised. Postecoglou, the way we're playing, is still being patronised. It's becoming an obsession now, and it's carried through into yesterday's game against Liverpool. Obviously, we got dicked down 6-3. 6-3. I fucking can't even remember it. It was like a bad dream. How much do you agree with the narrative that's been like led by, I think, Sky? I mean, to be fair, it's everywhere, but I think mainly Sky through like Carragher and Gary Neville. They're the biggest outlets. They're the biggest when they talk. I think the majority of football fans listen, even if they don't agree.
Yeah,
they're very respected, and I think they've got such a target on Postecoglou. They put such a target on Postecoglou's head. Like even if he started being tactical, like being defensive, I feel like they've got to a point where they'll refuse to even acknowledge anything. It is let's prove this narrative. Let's prove this narrative. But how much do you agree with the narrative that they're sort of pushing? Because I think it is a very popular in the footballing world. It's a very popular narrative, and I don't think it will stop until he's gone.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think a lot of it's been quite lazy. Again, I've got no problem with Spurs being criticised. I've got no problem with them trying to rip apart Ange's tactics because we've been there at points this season where we've gone, I don't agree with what Ange has done there. I think our in-game management is poor. I think our lack of recognition of game state at times is poor, but I feel like they're missing the mark on so much of the stuff that the fan base actually care about. And I kind of just peddling this narrative of just like Spurs are Spursy and they're going to throw games away. And like the forced mistakes the other night gave them exactly the ammunition that they were after to kind of try and prove the point and discredit anything good Spurs did in the game to get to that point in the first place, like you kind of alluded to. Yesterday, I think I watched the game back, but again, I watched it on Spurs Play rather than on Sky because I couldn't bear to. I did the same
for you, mate.
Well, I was going to say like that's the good thing about. Although it's painful being in the fucking stadiums when you've got Squid Game fucking knobheads walking around the side of the pitch before kickoff, and stewards popping Levy Out balloons and trying to disrupt any form of protest. At least you ain't got to listen to Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher on commentary. And look, Jamie, we did the overlap together. I like you, mate. I do like you as a pundit, but I just feel like it's. I feel like I do feel like a lot of it is misplaced, and I feel like they're not really, as Ange has kind of been saying, not really taking into account any of the injuries and all that kind of stuff, and the fatigue that Spurs would have had yesterday. Because the Liverpool could have been got at if I think we'd had Romero and especially Romero, because I think their press is so aggressive they will leave gaps, and often they leave those two midfielders in Gravenberch and McAllister isolated, and you can maybe kind of get at them if you play through that front four. But Dragusin, on the ball is a problem. And this Spurs team looked absolutely knackered. And it arguably, despite the fact that going into the game, I was looking forward to it because, again, you kind of do get suckered into that thing of like how neutrals talk about how entertaining they are to watch. You knew you were going to get a good game yesterday. Like everyone knew they were going to get that, and I thought you just don't know with Spurs. You just don't know what Spurs is going to turn up. But again, I feel like that is a lazy thing that's been creeping in again about like you don't know what Spurs are going to turn up. You know what Spurs are going to turn up at the moment, especially in a game like this, considering how mentally and physically jading Thursday night would have been for the players, playing exactly the same team on Sunday that played against United on Thursday. It was going to massively take it out of them. And I think Liverpool, despite the fact that, you know, you just don't know if we can get a result or not, when you look at how well they've been playing this season, they are the best team in the league. And I think I said this after Chelsea, you get like a real, especially when you're in the ground, I think you get a real appreciation for, or just when they play you in general, wherever you're watching it, but like you kind of get a real appreciation for how technically and physically good they are when you're kind of just maybe like watching some of the players rather than just watching the game. Do you know what I mean? You can kind of, like I said the same thing after Chelsea, they're just such a good side. And when you think about, obviously they played Southampton on Wednesday, I think only 4 players that played yesterday played on Wednesday. And they had an extra day's rest. And even then, with the confidence they're playing with at the moment and their ability to kind of manage games, they're arguably the worst kind of team we could have come up against, because you think about Szoboszlai and I thought Szoboszlai was excellent. Like him and Gravenberch.
Oh, he was
like
incredible, mate.
Transition, like the legs they've got, the way they can spring forward. You try and press them, but you've got Trent just clipping balls, taking out your whole press. It's like, it's just, they are a great, great side. And that's why I feel kind of, I sort of feel, apathetic is a dangerous word because it kind of means that you don't really care. And of course I care about Spurs losing. I think apathetic is more safe for like when you just don't feel that there's any hope. And I don't feel that's the case. Not with Postecoglou, maybe more so about where Spurs are going in terms of the direction of the owners and all that kind of stuff. But the result didn't really, and the scoreline, which is crazy when you consider letting in 6 goals at home, which is unacceptable, whatever scenario. That shouldn't happen. But sometimes you kind of just have to take these ones on the chin. And I think it's hard to be too hard on Tottenham after this, just because of what we've gone through and the team we've got out, and the players have just got nothing left, I don't think, in these kind of games, especially when you're playing 3 games in a week, and especially when you're coming up against a really high intensity side in Liverpool that you want to get at, and Man United, which is a very high intensity emotional game because it's a massive game and you want to get through to a cup semi-final. So the last kind of 3 games as a package, like Southampton was exactly what we needed. United was also exactly what we needed. We didn't help ourselves, but again, there was no real acknowledgement for actually the fact that it was just 2 kind of colossal fuck ups, and actually we held them off pretty well. Yes, they were getting through us at times, and maybe we should have slowed down in terms of our pressing, but we were absolutely controlling the game at 3-0, and people just will not acknowledge that. And I think, especially when that's been one of our biggest criticisms as a fan base, of like, actually, it's on the ball where we struggle to control kind of games at times, and it feels like you have to go 2-3-0 up to get into that position. But the way that Basuma, Sarr and Maddison were kind of just popping the ball about on Thursday after we went 3-0 up, it was all down to the mistakes from Forster, but we still got through it. And I think the fans were kind of, I think obviously like we're sick of reading some of the stuff that gets said about us, even though there's been some good stuff. I think there's been some good stuff said about Tottenham with no real kind of bias or agenda there in a critical sense, but also taking into account the situation that we're in. You know, that's why I think most people felt, even after the manner in which it happened on Thursday, people felt buoyed because of like Angie's words after the game and like the kind of sticking 2 fingers up to Carragher and Neville, which, to be fair, Carragher certainly at least did sort of took on the chin and was like, fair play. Like, well, like, you know, I like him. This is how I kind of feel. And you can accept that. But I think a lot of it largely has been lazy. I also think it's very hard to analyze a game like yesterday, because especially when you've got that many players out and you're playing that sort of, misshapen back 4, that doesn't mean that Spurs couldn't have done things differently. That doesn't mean that, you know, kind of getting your tails up after getting that goal back in the first half that you probably didn't deserve, and then you kind of go press and press and press right at the end of this first half, where you can just get to half time and then reorganize a little bit, and then you go press and they play one ball over the top. Dragusin comes out and they flick the header on and they go for on goal. It's like, I think it's so hard, I think, kind of taking all 3 games into account. Like, I think it is really hard to judge how good or bad Spurs are right now. And I do think, despite the fact that, yes, we've had similar issues at times with Romero and Van der Ven, that's just the way that we play. We're going to concede goals at points. I saw a stat that was like, our XG per game conceded prior to the injury crisis was like 0.77, and in the last 6 games we've conceded like 13 open play XG, which is nuts. So that does show you that it is making a difference not having those players there. So yes, it's not totally going to be like everything's going to be fine when they come back, but I think we just kind of got to hang in there until they do to really make a judgment on where we're at. And it's so hard. I think we just kind of. I know people are pissed off and stuff like that. Although I think the most people yesterday were kind of just accepting of giving that result to Liverpool and saying, "Well done. Okay, yes, we shouldn't have conceded 6, but this is where we're at. Where we're at right now. If you don't really want Ange to be here, I do think it's a kind of thing where we kind of got to just, from my point of view anyway, like we kind of just have to suck it up and just try and get through this period as best we can. It's going to be so hard, but that's kind of it's just we ain't got a choice, really, have we?
Yeah. Nah, I feel like Postecoglou, with what he said after the game, just summed up exactly how I'm feeling, and I think everyone's feeling. This narrative that's being spun, everyone knows. Everyone knows. You don't have to point out well done for pointing out like the captain obvious of like you can't play this, you can't play this.
Yeah,
it's nothing's gonna change. Like there's no point. You're gonna just like it's gonna. I do think it's gonna harm his reputation if he does go. And it's because the next club is going to be the same narrative. This narrative is now going to follow him through his professional career. Now he's in this spotlight.
Yeah.
But I feel it's boring. It's so fucking boring, basically. And I'm fine with them being critical of Postecoglou. I'm fine with them being critical of us. It's always going to happen. But sorry, we're playing against Liverpool. If we played really defensive, we'd probably still get dick slapped 4-0. And then what are they saying? Then I really like their tactical approach here. Okay, they lost 4-0. It was boring. It was terrible. It was a terrible watch. There was no fight. Like where's you can't be happy. You can't win. So we scored 3 goals against Liverpool, conceded 6 at home, and I think that's a representation of the squad at the moment. I do think we lose that game even with Romero, Vicario, a fully fit Doggy, Van der Ven. We lose that game, and I mean Liverpool. You're saying how good they are. I mean, it's like the 80th minute they're bringing on Jota. I know Darwin Nunez is a bit of a hot and cold player. He's not that good, but he's still. I mean, fuck me, I'd do anything to have Darwin Nunez off the bench. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shows
Harvey Elliott, even like
Harvey Elliott, Curtis
Harvey
Jones
Elliott.
coming on. It's like you're looking at this and you're thinking, fuck me, they're in such a better place squad wise, first 11 and like the squad depth and they've got game changers. We don't have that even with our fully fit starting 11. We got Werner coming in off the bench, Bergvall, who I love Bergvall. I still think he probably deserves a loan because I think with Bergvall, he's got everything. What he needs is game time week in, week out, and just to let all the things like I think he's a bit sloppy when it comes to fouling, etc. I think he needs to just fade those things out of his game. And he's the perfect example of he just needs game time. He's ready to go. Definitely. He just needs game time to sort of get these out of his system. And then, so I do think like a Premier League lower side or a Championship loan until the end of the season is perfect for him. And we'll get onto the January transfer window. But like, if we get someone in at least like in that position, I think that's a bit controversial. Because people want to see more of him, but I just think he's a perfect example.
I hear it.
But I just thought it was boring. But I do think it was actually a really good exercise yesterday to see the players that aren't fit to be a part of this final finished article under Postecoglou, if he ever gets there, because there's a lot of fat that needs trimming.
Yeah,
and I'm actually beginning to hate. I'm obviously not, but I'm really. I think everyone's now seeing the players that you're looking and you're thinking, okay, they're the next to go and the next to upgrade. I think this is a healthy thing for most trajectories in a big plan. I know, are we ever going to get there? Probably not because of the ownership. But if you're looking at this stage that we're at, second season, and you're draining out, you're filtering out the players, and now you're looking at players that last season we thought were pivotal to us, that you're thinking, you know what, they could be upgraded 100% and churned out. And I'm going to name names because I think what's frustrating, and I acknowledge completely that we're running so low on energy, and the players are probably like dead on their feet, which leads to just like a sloppiness and maybe they don't want to track that runner. They want to bust the gut to get back as much because they're just fucking dead on their feet. But I think what we just lack so much with football brain on the pitch. We have no leaders, and we just don't have any football brain. And a lot of the stuff that it could be argued that is coaching, I think is common sense that the players are just lacking. And I want to name names because I'm sick of, first of all, though, Kulusevski, Solanke, they've been incredible. I think I saw James Lawrence Walcott when he was breaking down the Man United game. He was at Spurs Man United. He was saying about how Man United lack partnerships and how they're crucial when you're playing football. You have like duos that link up so well. Solanke and Kulusevski, the dovetailing between the two and the chemistry, the cohesion, it's amazing. And they're problems to any side. Like Van Dijk was insane last night, and they still managed to catch him off guard twice. I know, like individually, but that goal was incredible, and they're just miles above everyone else at the moment in the squad.
Yeah,
Solanke and Kulusevski, you're looking at a part of a spine. When Romero and Van der Ven come back in, you're looking at this spine in the squad that it gives you hope. Vicario, Van der Ven, Romero. If we get proper number six, and then you got Kulusevski and Solanke, that's a really, really promising spine. It's just we don't when they're gone, we don't have any backup. We're going to get into a fucking Dragusin, but we're not specifically in. But I just think that they were shining light. Archie Gray, I felt so bad for him. 18 years old, and he's playing against like absolute monsters in Salah, Gakpo and Diaz's form right now is ridiculous, and obviously Jota coming off from the bench and Nunez. He conceded 6, but 18-year-old midfielder, you can see the potential and you can see the leadership. I loved after the United game him taking accountability for Forster's mistake. Forster's like 38 years old or whatever he is, and there's an 18-year-old kid who could be his son putting his hands up and taking full accountability. Like, I love that because not many people take accountability in this Spurs squad, and there's not enough leadership. And you're seeing the beginnings of a proper leader who's going to be at this club for a long, long time.
No, he's going to be a top player. He's going to be an absolute
I love him.
Player.
I love him.
And do you know what? He actually came out with, like, I think yesterday. I mean, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but you sort of saw the praise, and naturally, like, I think rival fans or even Liverpool fans who are kind of watching that game and going, I feel sorry for this kid, obviously 18 years old, having to put up with our phenomenal front line kind of thing. But I think what you kind of highlighted there in terms of the accountability after the United game, he just doesn't look phased in any kind of scenario either. He got beaten a couple of times by Salah. Like, that Salah chance where he hit the bar, he nearly made Gray look silly, but it's Mo Salah. Like, you can see, I think he came out with so much credit in the bank yesterday, Gray, which is only going to help his kind of stock go like that. And his stock is going like that all the time. I think he's an absolutely top player. And I think with the discipline that he shows as well, and I think with the legs that he's got and the football brain and the composure, obviously, I totally agree with you in terms of what you're saying about like the Solanke and Kulusevski thing. And where the fuck would we be without them? Because Solanke, 15 goals and assists now in all comps. Kulusevski has scored in every single one of the last 6 games. Is that right? 5 games, 6 games, 7 games? Fuck knows. Feels like 10 games. But like the amount of goals and assists he's got against the top 6 as well. Like, they are leaders. And if they're leaders in terms of how they play, in terms of how they press, etc. And just everything is so like, Kulusevski's gone up a level obviously this season anyway, like we knew that. But like you said, when you bring Vicario back in and bring Romero and Van der Ven back in, and then you have Kulusevski and you have Solanke, that is the basis of a really encouraging spine of that team. And I've been saying this for weeks. The missing link, as we know, and I think one of the players, when you said I'm going to name names, I'm guessing you're going to talk about Basuma. That is one of the missing pieces. But the encouraging thing, I suppose, is, and we need more. And obviously, Ange, and we'll probably speak about it when we speak a bit more about January. But he obviously said on Friday about we need to look at how we allocate the funds in terms of bringing in players more in those, like, what was the word he used? Kind of like not he didn't say prime, but that's kind of what he meant. Like their kind of peak years, like Solanke and like what we're kind of getting with Romero. He said we haven't got many players in that sweet spot, didn't he? That's what he said. We've got a load of youngsters, and then we've kind of got, obviously Solanke is in his prime, you'd say. Kulusevski is coming into his prime. Romero's
But
coming
they
into
can
his
still
prime.
get a bit better.
Definitely.
But they're more experienced, yeah.
You've also got a lot of players like Son, who, again, Son I thought was poor yesterday. But again, I'm looking at Son thinking, I just don't think he can play 2 games a week. I think that's kind of the reality of it. I think there's a direct correlation kind of between these performances and the load management. But again, they ain't got a choice. We just have not got a choice, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think that number 6 position is the obvious missing link in making this Tottenham spine really, really good and exciting. But the also exciting thing about that, despite the fact that I think you're right and what you're going to say, and I think we all feel like this, we need to sign someone who can play there. But Archie Gray, I do think over time will develop into a top player. I love the kid. I think he's just the mental application, the responsibility taken. He's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what we saw there was 90 minutes of child abuse, and he came out with his head held high. Do you know what I mean? And like again, he got fooled. He did, but you can just see I don't think that game will phase him. I don't think that will shake his confidence. I think he's the type of like personality that will take that as a lesson and move on, forget about it, and take the positives. He just seems like such a steady character, like head on his shoulders, humble. Obviously, when we signed him, he was picking up cones at the training ground and stuff like that. It's like and I think you look at the other end of the scale. You look at the player next to him. So Jed Spence as well. Fucking love Jed Spence. And you're looking at 2 players of Spence and Gray. Okay, we shifted 6 goals at home, but you're looking at Spence and Gray playing out of position. I know Spence can play left back, but again, he's a right back. It's great, 2 players, they can hold their head high. Dragusin, hang his head in shame. He's playing in this fucking position that we signed him to play in. Do you know what I mean? It's so I wanna start naming names. I think Sarr had one of his poorest games in a Spurs shirt yesterday when it came to, because it's the basics of football that he weren't showing, that is, as a fan, is like probably the worst thing you could possibly see. And I think Sarr actually, I know we haven't really got the legs, but now Bentancur's coming back. I think Sarr deserves to actually be dropped for his. I'm not saying get rid of him. I think Sarr is like, you can kind of let him off because you can clearly see the potential and the talent he does have. I think he just lacks a bit of a football brain. But he. So the thing I'm pissed off at him, I think he was at fault for 2 goals yesterday. I think the first goal, he didn't track Diaz. I think the second goal, the second one where he's at fault is he doesn't track. I forgot who it was. I think it was the one where Gray. Was that the 4th goal where Gray clears it off the line twice, just can't get away with it, and then Salah scores? Who is it? Was it Diaz or Gakpo that sort of broke the line?
Gakpo
got in behind.
Diaz was running.
Oh yeah, Sarr just completely ball watches. He's trying to. He doesn't track his run. But if you pause that goal, Porro, Bissouma, and a few other players, they're on the edge of the box, and there's 5, 6 Liverpool players in the box. They're on the edge of the box. You can't tell me that's a managerial tactical decision. That's just shit. That is just atrocious. And I know they've probably given it all. They're all this season so far, and they're tired. But that is unforgivable.
Well, look at Bissouma for the 3rd goal as well. The 3rd goal I think was the worst one. Oh, my camera's just died. Hang on.
Oh yeah, terrible.
Bissouma for the 3rd goal. Let me just move my thing. Bissouma for the 3rd goal. He obviously it's a mess from kind of start to finish for Spurs because we've just got back in the game. Well, I say back in the game. The scoreline would suggest we got back in the game. Yeah. It gives you kind of a platform to build on going into half time, and then we go and press like madmen to try and win the ball back when it's just like, oh, right, you've got how long left till half time by that point? Like, I don't know. We scored on 41, didn't we? And they scored in injury time. So, 45 minutes, whatever. Spence goes and presses because they right, let's go. We can go and get him. Yeah. Dragusin obviously steps up to try and win that such a low percentage header against Szoboszlai, which he's never going to win. Szoboszlai was obviously, I think the fluidity of Liverpool's front four was a massive problem in terms of all the different positions they were picking up. But Szoboszlai, they kind of use a bit of target man as well at times. He was never going to win that header. But then watch Bissouma try and get back. It's just embarrassing. And I've defended Bissouma at times because I think his job as a 6 is incredibly hard. I think he's got such a hard job. especially when we don't really play with a pivot. He kind of plays on his own in there, and I don't think that helps. I don't think he's a lone six. I think he's a pivot player. I think he's an 8 who can do a lot of good defensive work and is very press proof and is calm under pressure. On the ball, he's largely pretty good for us. But yesterday again, I think it was one of the chances they had in the first half that came from just a sloppy blind pass. It was like, what are you doing? But again, not excuses, but the mental fatigue comes into that a little bit as well. But that decision making as well. Yeah, that fourth goal, the one you're talking about, Robertson makes that tackle, and then you look at the amount of Liverpool players that go forward, and it's like, oh fuck. Porro's on the edge of their box, and there's a freeze frame where you can kind of just see him going, not again. I've got to go back all the way the other again, and they just can't get there. And the thing is, the second half was going to be always a bit more open anyway, because it's like, well, it's better to kind of fall on your sword and go for it.
Yeah.
And we tried it, and it meant we got picked. Because the first half, it wasn't even like we were being picked off. They were just like, all right, we got counted a couple of times, and one of them was for the third goal. But like, it was more about they were getting in behind us, and sort of they were intricate passing and just showing their absolute quality. But the second half was always going to be a bit like that. But yeah, I know you're exhausted, but like the effort to get back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
there was moments in the game where it was like just brain dead. Like there was I think, was it where you were saying about Porro being stuck at the edge of the box, I think, for the fourth goal.
Yeah.
But he's in line with I think, was Johnson playing at that point? And
no, I don't think yet. I think it's just before.
Or was it Solanke and Kulusevski? But Porro joins them, but not in. He's in almost in their way. Like he's in the same lane as them, and he's actually overloading that where it's unnecessarily. And if he's got like a fucking brain on him, he's going to be like, you know what? There's two players here, dovetailing. They work so well. I'm just going to hold back a little bit. He runs with him. We lose the ball. We completely bypass.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's not
him there. He moved in. There was quite a lot of space, wasn't there? Like if Kulusevski got that pass off, Porro was basically in on goal. But it was a very good tackle by Robertson.
Yeah.
But it was. I know what you mean.
But then someone's got to take accountability there and think, look, there's 3 players here running in the same space, and I mean, we got completely outdone, and that's the frustration, is that a lot of the time, and like if specifically in this game, there'd be like a little tackle or a little interception. All of a sudden, we are completely exposed and so vulnerable. And then there's a 1v, and then we're outnumbered, and all of a sudden our midfield's been completely bypassed. There's no midfield, and they're having a proper run at just the back four, which is a dismantled back four anyways. And it was like, is that? I mean, it is. I think it is the tactics, but we know that's the way it is. That's the way it's going to be. Like the players, I think I think a lot of the time it's understanding problems before they happen, anticipating problems before they happen, and just Bissouma holding back a little bit, or Sarr, or Porro, Spence obviously for the third goal. Like I love Spence. I think he did incredible. But obviously him pushing up left a lot of space, and I think that was because of I think it was the moment. It was, let's fucking push on, let's get this equalised before half time.
Yeah, and
then we got capitalized, and I just think that was so frustrating, because we just completely, like, we so easily bypassed. So easily, you can, if you tackle us, you're free for like you're gonna have a run at the defense. And it's like it's so frustrating to watch. But obviously, I think I feel a lot more comfortable if you got Salah, Diaz, and Gakpo all running at Van der Ven and Romero. I feel so much safer. It's because they're running at an 18-year-old kid, right back at left back, and Dragusin. I want to talk about Dragusin, and I do want to talk about Bissouma as well. I'm done with him. It's less than a year after we signed him. Bayern got a better deal. Dyer's actually better than him, and do you know why? Yeah. Because Dyer's got the leadership. Well, not the best leadership, but he could fucking find a long pass. Dragusin ain't even got that consistently. No. Dyer's little pings, I miss them. Bring him back. No, I'm joking. But like we replaced Dyer with Dragusin. We've kind of gone back. Like I can't stand him. Like this is horrible, because I do think there's a quality defender in there for a different setup. Yeah, it is awful recruitment.
It's just a complete misfit.
The opposite of what we need. Yeah, exactly. And then you look at like Palace picking up Lacroix for like a similar price, and you're like, what? Like kids playing FIFA could have told you that was a better signing for us.
Kind of vibe.
Just because of his, but like that was Dragusin. Like we are looking at a player that probably needs to be sold in the next 2 years, especially with his agent and how much like package he brings.
Yeah, well, luckily the way his agent talks, there's quite a lot of people that will come in for him, so he might be all right.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that is true. And then I want to talk about Bissouma because I've said it before. If you play that number 6 role, you are the center of the spine. Again, it's the hardest position on the pitch, most demanding position on the pitch. You got to have a football brain on you. You have to. And when it works, when he's playing well, Spurs play well. There's no that's not a coincidence. But he's just. I think I saw something. It was like he's too emotional and he's too inconsistent to play that number 6. You need a leader, a presence to play that number 6, and you need that consistency, because I think when he's not having a good game, it throws the whole team under the bus. Yeah. But that's not. It's unfair on him because that's just the role he is in. But if he's not good enough to play that role, it's like, what can you do? He's not good enough. He's not it, and he's not consistent enough, and he does let us down a lot. I'm not just pointing him out. I think most people had a bad game. Well. That's not true, actually. There were a few players that stepped up and showed the desire that we wanted, but they were let down by their teammates. And I think Bissouma was one of them. Like we were saying, just not tracking runners, losing the ball, sloppy passes. I think there was a few people that actually thought he played well. I couldn't agree less. Like, I thought he was atrocious. And yeah, you can empathise with him or sympathise with him because, yeah, he's playing the hardest position on the pitch, but it's just not good enough. And that's the thing. It's like I'm letting Sarr off because he's 22. Is he 22, 23? I can't remember.
21,
but
I think, isn't he?
Is he? Yeah, exactly. He's got so much to learn. Bissouma, he's one of the experienced heads in the team, and I can't see him getting better. So it's one of those things where you have to be ruthless and you have to kind of sell to get the funds, because that's the way we work. And also he takes some space in the team. And I think with the stuff like his defensive contribution, like he's in the team for his press-proven ability and his agility and how he can pop it back quite quickly. And there are things that Maddison can do. Like his defensive contribution, I think Maddison's defensive contribution is literally the same level as Bissouma's, and Bissouma's the number 6. Like it's piss poor. I think he's good in a sort of 50-50 tackle. I do think he's quite good at that, but I just think his positioning, his defensive awareness, is atrocious, and I think he needs to be upgraded. Porro, I think Porro is another player that I don't think he has a football brain. I'm trying to say, the thing with Porro is that, and it's reminded me of another moment with Johnson, where I think, who was it? It was Kulusevski had the ball, he's driving forward, he wriggles past the player. Johnson makes a straight run. He's being marked, he makes a straight run. And that he's running in line where Kulusevski's trajectory is, instead of stretching the defence out wide. Because Johnson had legs. I think he was perfect. He should have started this game. He had legs.
I think so.
There was gaps in, like, Son could have been getting him beyond, but I don't think he had the legs because he was just tired. There was moments where he couldn't stay on the side. I think Johnson could have done that the other side. And I think, I don't know who would have been sacrificed. Like, I think it would have been unfair to sacrifice Maddison. I think Kulusevski needed to be more involved in the first half, bring him centrally. But then when Johnson come on, there was a moment where Kulusevski's wriggled past the midfield, he's running at pace, and he's looking for options. Johnson's making just a run straight ahead of him, and he's being marked. And Kulusevski can't do anything there, and then in the end, Kulusevski gets tackled. Where Johnson should be sprinting out and stretching the pitch as wide as possible, but to the byline, either being an actual option for him or moving the defence out of the way for Kulusevski to sort of drive into that space. And I feel like that summed up the brain of the players on the team. Like, we don't have a footballing brain, like, really, apart from obviously the obvious ones like Kulusevski, Solanke. They're smart players, they're clever players, and it proves it. Porro is another one. I just don't think he's got. I think he's technically brilliant. I just don't think he's got a football brain. But I do think he's tired, and I do think he's lacking a bit of sharpness. But with fullbacks coming into January, if this isn't, it has to be both sides. It has to be well, obviously including Spence, but it has to be something that is visited in January or the summer. It has to be, because you've seen them being overused, the Doggy and Porro, and you've seen the sort of damage it's doing to their form and their confidence. And I actually think that fucking out of breath, ranting. I do think that, like, when we go to sign players in that fullback position, we need to bring in alternative profiles, I think.
Yeah.
To rival them instead of necessarily just like being backups. I think Postecoglou could have an incredible... I think we can solve the security issue if maybe we play more of a double pivot. I think we've got players that are perfect for double pivot. I think Gray, Bentancur, Basuma is much better when he's maybe the responsibilities off him a little bit. And Sarr, I feel like they're pivot number 6s in a double pivot, not number 6s, but number 8s.
Yeah,
that are more defensive minded, next to a destroyer. And I think if we do that and maybe bring in fullbacks that are a little bit more defensive, I think you'd see an improvement in us in our vulnerability. And maybe bigger profiles, more physical presences. I think we need to bring in a blend of football brains, physicality, and technicality. And I know that's easier said than done, but we need footballing brains, we need leaders, but we need that physicality, and technicality coming in. I feel like that hybrid between centre back, right back, centre back, left back, it's in demand, but there are quite a few profile players that fit that profile out there in the market. Because it's like a new thing. It's like the new. I think that would help. I do think that would help us. And in games like this, obviously it's a theory, but because what Liverpool were doing is Diaz would start over on Porro's side, Gakpo would be there as well, and Diaz would he wouldn't be playing the ball. He would dart across our back line and drag everyone across. Gakpo would just fill in that space. And then they'd outnumber us basically, and players start getting in the box, and we couldn't cope with it. I feel like more defensive-minded fullbacks, because we're stuck a lot of the time in 1v1 situations. That's how we defend. I think we need to reinforce that by bringing in 1v1 specialists out on the flank, out at fullbacks. 4 games like Liverpool, 4 games like. Forget big games like that. What do you think about that? That was sort of something I was thinking when I was watching.
I think so.
Porro yesterday.
Fullback definitely. I said it after the game yesterday. I like Pedro Porro, but I think there'll be a clear improvement in this team if Jed Spence gets a run of games out right back. I just think in terms of his ability to cover the space and the way that Pedro Porro is able to do physically at the moment, and what he kind of gives you going forward as well. He's fresh. He's eager. He's hungry. And he's got the legs. He can cover ground. And I think he's kind of everything that you sort of want, really. Maybe invert the wing was right the whole time. You're also not going to get Spence at his best playing on the left, although I thought he did a really good defensive job. He can defend 1v1. He knows what it takes. He can kind of use his physicality in certain situations to get him out of trouble that Pedro Porro can't do. So I think we kind of got to look at that and kind of try and find a left back in a kind of similar vein as what we've got almost with Spence in a way. Because it's hard because obviously I think we're looking at the fact that we obviously need a centre half as well and a left back. I think naturally, your instincts or our instincts kind of go to like we need like a hybrid kind of Calafiori type player, which I think would be great. And then I think every squad could do with someone like that because he's just a kind of cheat code and the ability to cover 2 positions. But Calafiori still has a primary role for Arsenal, doesn't he? As kind of a left back, but obviously it affects kind of where they defend. I think we should personally be going and looking at buying a left back and a centre half because I think we need the bodies. Because we know that Ange needs a big squad. We know that Spurs need a big squad to kind of make this work. And like you said, I think it has to be players with more of a defensive mind and more defensive brain, which I actually think Spence kind of does have. I do think Spence kind of maybe because he's ability as well. Yeah, maybe it's also because he's fresher. Maybe that might be why. But I like what I see from him. I really like what I've seen, and I just think in terms of like modern day fullbacks, I think also I do think that in terms of the tactical tweaks that you're kind of talking about playing with more of a pivot, bear in mind the players that we've got that are more suited to that and kind of again, you can't just go out and buy a ready-made 6 on the market. A lot of them aren't really there. Like if you're talking about someone like a Stiller, I really like Stiller, but he's not really a 6. Again, you'd categorize him as more of a kind of pivot player. Cardozo maybe is slightly different to that. Belieber again is more of a kind of pivot player, but again, I think we're going to be shopping in different waters to someone like him. But and that kind of comes down to wages. But yeah, I think we need to. I think we've spoken about it before, but like the balance of, I'm not sure where we sit on the balance of like technical quality versus physicality. And I think we played against a team yesterday that has literally got the perfect balance of that. When you think of the runners and the athleticism, but also like the decision making, like the quality of the goals when they were able to carve through us, despite the fact that we made it so easy, like the decision making, you know. So we need to get to that point. But I think again that, you know, it's all well and good sitting us talking about transfers and that kind of stuff, but I have no idea what that recruitment strategy. I think that Ange knows what he wants. He knows what he wants in terms of the recruitment strategy. He's admitted that. I think he knows we need more ready players. He said that literally on Friday. But let's see what they actually do. But I think it's quite. We know what we need. We know what we're lacking. It's just about going and doing it.
And it's the belief, because I have no belief installed in me that we're going to make the right decision in the transfer market. Because if you're looking at the recruitment strategy since Lange has come in, it's fucking shite. Like Gray's gonna be brilliant for the future. Like fantastic. I'm buzzing with him, but he's not going to do anything for the now, is it? Or he's going to be incredible, and you're going to see him blossom. But he needs a healthy environment to be in as well to fully reach that potential. And if we haven't got the leaders in the squad, if we haven't got those ready-made players to sort of that can protect him, like you may damage that sort of trajectory for players like Archie Gray. So you're almost
That's kind of what Andrew was saying, wasn't it? It was like, I need those players to help those younger players grow.
Yeah, otherwise you're stuck in the same position as before.
Yeah, it's as much about that as like actually having the quality to. Well, it's kind of both things equally matter. It's about having the instant quality to affect games straight away, but also for a player that comes in, it's like plug in, he's ready. Solanke. Like Solanke is such a great lesson or what should be a great lesson to the board, you know. And to be fair, they got that one right. And again, with Lang, like we clearly didn't do enough in the summer, and that's obviously a reflection on our judgment of him. And it was poor. It's poor squad planning, but I don't think it's poor. I don't think it's poor recruitment. I think it's poor planning, is what I would say. But then, because I think it's such a hard thing, because I think in an ideal world, if all the cards fall in Postecoglou's favour in terms of lack of injuries, all that kind of stuff, then you could say that, okay, well, that's great, because now we've built a foundation where these younger players are going to come in. We were close last year. We don't need loads. We just need that sort of upgrade on quality. And we've done that with our striker. We've scored more goals than anybody in the league. Solanke's been an excellent addition. And that should be a lesson for future transfer windows. But it's just always that gamble of like, is that manager actually going to get that time to see that project through? Because in terms of like an ideal vision, it sounds good, even that you might have to suffer at points along the way if they know that they've got to go and add proven quality to it over the next few windows, which the manager is actively saying, you know, that's all great. But because the lack of investment at the time in the summer is now hurting the manager to the point where he might not be able to see it through. So exactly. It's hard. It's really, it's just so frustrating, because it's just like that we know that the seeds of everything that we're there. We know. I'm excited about what this could be. I think everybody is. I think everybody's excited about what Ange can do. Yeah. But it's just about like how is that going to get seen through if this is the way that it's going to carry on because of what we've done.
Yeah, and if we don't get ready-made players or players that come in with who've come from a better foundation, a better environment, like Kulusevski coming from Juventus, playing with like Ronaldo, etc., and carrying that mentality that he has with him. If we don't have that, or ready-made players like Solanke coming through, we're always going to be stuck in the same cycle. Like the DNA that we have, the weak foundations, it is contagious, and you've got a young set amount of players. You need that balance of experience and leadership around them to help them grow, and they're going to just carry that mentality with them until they fail again. So it is frustrating. It's this everlasting cycle. But I think, I mean, you say poor planning. I think, the summer was that. But I think last January, we were obviously heading into January. I think last January was just poor recruitment.
Yeah,
like, you're getting in.
I think January was
Dragusin, and Werner. Yeah, so and that was Ladger's first January. And if it's anything like that again, fucking hell. I mean, I know it's bullshit, but stuff like I just don't know. Actually, I don't even know. I mentioned it. We'll link like Ben Godfrey on a loan, which is bullshit. But I think it's like Footy Insider, so don't listen to me. But even so, it's like it's laughable because that's something we do.
Yeah.
From the past, that's something we would actually do, like loan him in. But what? So there was probably the biggest Enoch out protest there's been to date yesterday at the game.
Yeah.
And obviously the head of the Supporters Trust stepped down with a really, really it was a brilliant statement on the sort of on the state of the club at the moment, how distant Levy seems to be from the club, yet has such a say on the footballing aspects of it still, even after what Levy's actually done, instead of just taking a step back, is he's adding more problems. He's adding more players, more people in for the football side of it, yet he still has the ultimate say. It doesn't make any sense at all. I know that's how a lot of clubs do operate, but it's fucking ridiculous. Why have all these players in if you have the last say anyways? And so, but there is this sort of movement, and I think the majority, it is everywhere. It's everywhere. It's now reaching the media. It's now reaching newspapers. It's now obviously Twitter. It has been for ages, but it's now reaching outside the stadiums. Now in the stadiums with the chants and the balloons. It is gaining a little bit of like momentum and accelerating. How effective do you think the Levy Out protests are at the moment in regards to change? Because I mean, the Squid Game shit yesterday, I know we laughed about it, but that was like perfect representation of just how far like disattached Levy is from the reality of the football club right now. Yeah. Like, I know that probably does help us financially, but what the fuck? Like, we're getting absolutely bent over against Liverpool. It's embarrassing. Our squad is so thin. We've got 18-year-old kids playing centre-back, 18-year-old midfielders playing centre-back. And you got Squid Game like walking around. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It's so far from what's important.
It's bollocks, mate.
So how effective do you think this sort of movement is at the moment in regards to change?
It's hard because we've spoken about it before. I just don't think he cares. I don't think it. No. And the sad thing is the way that he set the football club up means that even if you price out those really loyal supporters, which he already has done, there will still be people in the ground, and there won't be anywhere near enough momentum be able to gather within the ground, doing all the stuff, because everyone who's doing these kind of movements in the process is all separated, and the rest of the ground, other than the kind of season ticket holders who are all sort of spread out and might have different views, etc. The stadium's full of fucking tourists anyway. So it's like, as long as he sees everybody on the seats and sitting down, regardless of whether they're getting behind the team or not. And it's hard because, like, obviously Ange came out after the game yesterday and was kind of said that, you know, the fans are very much entitled to feel how they feel. It's like, I'm glad they're getting behind the team. That's what we need. And maybe Ange said a really good thing where it's like, well, maybe they can see what we're trying to do. Maybe they know and know the challenges we're having with it. As in, like, obviously he's talking about the injuries in the sense of like, the fans can hopefully see what we're trying to achieve. But the fans just are going to lose the fans are going to get so disillusioned with that. And the reason that I think there's people that are even like don't really want Ange that are right. I'd rather get behind him than get behind the ball because we know what's going to happen and we know what we're going to go through another cycle. Exactly. Which I think is a good place to be in terms of generating the movement forward further, because I think that there's people that maybe haven't been totally vocal about. We've spoken about this on the podcast before, but like kind of constantly banging that drum of like, Levy out, Enoch out, because sometimes I think maybe the people at the forefront of that sometimes can be a little bit more divisive. But it feels like because people are more behind the manager, it feels like it's kind of bringing everyone together a little bit more. But then when you've got, and especially when you've got stuff like that happening yesterday, which just shows a complete lack of respect for the fans that have invested their time and money in for so long, and they've kind of were brought to the new stadium under this kind of false illusion and the false pretenses that we were going to kick on and be a serious football club. You know, doesn't matter when you're getting on board with the movement. If the Squid Game thing was the last straw for you, then at least everyone's on the same page at some point. Do you know what I mean? It's like yesterday was a joke, and to do it and to throw it in the face of the supporters that were making their voice heard before the game. I was at the pub and I didn't go because I didn't go to the protest because don't get me wrong. Look, I want change and I'm fully behind the movement and I've supported it. But at the same time, it's really difficult sometimes and stuff like that because it's also like going to football every week and going to Spurs is the time I get to catch up with like my old man and stuff like that. And we go to the pub and we have a routine, we do all that stuff. So like it's hard to be able to gain, and people go to football for all those kind of different reasons as well. But as long as you make your kind of voice heard in some way. But from what I did really see, and by the time I'd gone to the ground, it kind of all stopped because everyone was going in. But from obviously the videos and everything like that, it was certainly, it wasn't massive, but it was much bigger than we've sort of seen before. And then you go into the ground and you hear the fact that stewards are being told to pop the balloons and stuff like that. And you've got fucking Squid Game marching around the side of the pitch. It's just like, what is going on with this football club? Like, where is that yesterday? And I know Liverpool fans will sometimes turn around and say, yeah, all right, yeah, but we only signed Van Dijk and that because of the money that we got for Coutinho. I get that, but it's about decision making. It's not always about the money that you spend. Because again, Spurs, since we've moved to the new stadium, have broke our transfer record 3 times, and only one of them has been a success in Dominic Solanke. And obviously, it's very early days. Richarlison, you can write off because as much as we like his attitude and all that, he's been pretty useless for the fee related to what he's actually delivered. And that's not all his fault. And yes, he's been good at times. And Ndombele was a complete fucking write-off. So it's about making the right decisions at the right moments. And that's exactly what Liverpool have done. And I think yesterday you got like a really clear example of a club that is serious and a club that is not serious. Yeah. And I think there was an article that I think Jonathan Liu wrote, and it was kind of digging out Ange and the fact that it was like, about not serious on the pitch. It's like, yeah, but I don't think we're allowed to kind of be serious on the pitch because of the owners, really. Yes, Ange can do things differently, absolutely, but Liverpool are in a totally different stratosphere to what we are because of how they've acted and made right decisions at the right times over the last few years. And Spurs have had ample opportunity to do that, and we've just decided not to. We've been in so many situations where we've been this close and just gone backwards, and we've gone backwards massively. And I think you've got a manager now where there's a clear vision and a clear identity that can work. It can work. I'm not saying it's going to work, but it can work. And you just, he needs to be... Yes, Andrew's had a lot of money spent for him, but it's about how that money has also been allocated and the decisions that have also been made with that and the fact that maybe he's not had enough. And yes, we've spent money, but we can spend more. And I think that's the really frustrating thing. We can do what is required. So people will cry and say, yeah, but Andrew spent 300 odd million. It's like, all right, okay, fair enough. But we've also sold Harry Kane in that time. So we've had to kind of go around and replace, and he's had to come into that situation. And we've done that well, really well with Solanke, in my opinion. But there's room for more. And I'm not saying Spurs have to spend £500 million every window because that's not realistic. It's not career mode. But it's like...
No. But we could.
We do the bare minimum. We could. We actually... Oh, yeah, we probably could. Whether it's £500 million or not. It's like we can spend more than we do, put it that way. And again, it's not... People will say, like Crimea River, you spend 300 million quid under Ange and all that. We do not pay the wages. Our wage bill, I think, is the 7th highest or 8th highest in the Premier League. West Ham, I think, might be above us. Villa are above us. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And the wage bill often... maybe not West Ham, actually. Villa definitely are. But the wage bill is often a really good barometer of what the Premier League will look like. Because everyone can spend big money. Everyone can throw their weight around with transfer fees because there's plenty of players to go around, right? But with wages, that's how you attract the ones that are going to make the difference. And unfortunately, we don't do that. And again, it comes back to, like I said, I don't know how many times I can say I absolutely love Solanke and I think he's been a brilliant signing for us. But we've also said it before. It was easy to get over the line because there was no one else really in for him, or certainly not at that price. And don't get me wrong, they did the right thing by giving Ange the man that he wants at the price that, yes, maybe we overpaid, which I think is a load of bollocks anyway. I don't think transfer fees, to say someone overpaid,
the right budget, I think like right price.
Seems about right now, doesn't it? Exactly. Yeah. But if Arsenal had come in and thought we needed a striker and gone and paid the wages, he would have gone there, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Or Villa, even though Villa and Spurs are like, or Newcastle, or whoever it was, it's just, I don't know. I think people feel so disillusioned right now. And I think Levy is drifting further and further away from being in touch with what is needed to be done on the football pitch. And and he feels like he's not done anything wrong, and he feels like his job is done, and it's not done.
Yeah.
And the more people make their voice heard, and the more, all right, yeah, like I said earlier, does it just because you weren't that massively vocal about Levy in the past, that doesn't mean that there will always be a straw that will break the camel's back for some fans. And I think what's happened this season, and especially over the course of the last month, that is starting to gather momentum at pace, because a lot of fans just feel like they're being taken the piss out of. And that will arrive at different points. But as long as everyone's on the same page, which I feel like everybody is now, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, backhand.
It's getting
fuck Levy.
Bullshit. Yeah, it's getting to the point where he's got to a place with no return. Like it's saying, like it's like a relationship, and it's like we keep getting cheated on, and let's get to the point where it's like, right, you've done it for the last fucking time now. Like, I'm so done. There's no hope, and I feel like we've got oh fuck, I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, we're always going to be capped. Like with this structure in place, we are always going to be capped with our potential. We're always going to be limited. Our ceiling is going to be so much lower when it doesn't need to be. We're in such a positive place when it comes to PSR and relation in like compared to other teams around us. We're in such a healthy position, but it's never going to happen. And we could, even if we did, I wouldn't trust Levy with transfer. With spending big money either, because of his track record. And actually, then Paul O'Keefe said that Ange sort of was suggesting maybe that Lange and himself, they had to really convince Levy to pull the trigger on Solanke. And it's like, oh my god, imagine if we didn't get Solanke in the summer. Imagine if we went for like for Jonathan David because he was cheaper, or because it was him or Jonathan David, wouldn't it? That was what the reports are saying.
Yeah.
And it was like, and you're thinking, where would we be? Like his heart is just not in the right place when it comes to a football club. And it leads me on to January, because when it comes to Postecoglou, like he's everything that I want representing the football club. Like I'm concerned about the way we're playing football right now, but I feel like the way we play football, we need the right backing. We need to, if we're ambitious on the pitch, that needs to carry through in the transfer market. We need to be ambitious in the transfer market, capping the wages, etc. All this shit. I know it looks good on paper, but like you're not going to be able to attract the same players as all the clubs around us. Like we're in a moment in football in history where Fulham can beat Atletico Madrid, Juventus to transfers. West Ham literally beat Juventus to Debo, which is nuts, and that was in the summer. And so these clubs are
Juventus.
Yeah, these clubs are buying these really good players. And we're not showing any more ambition than them, and you're going to get the same results as them. And now fucking Nuno Espirito's Nottingham Forest are above us. They went out and got Milenkovic and Morato, these players that we were linked with in the past, but they're decent players. I wouldn't go mental about signing them, but you're still seeing that we're fishing in the same pond as Nottingham Forest. Even they've fucking eclipsed us this season, anyways. In the Premier League, we got them next as well. No, have we? Yeah, we have away from home. I'm actually worried about that. Nuno away from home, but.
Mate, they're third.
It's crazy. Fourth, it's crazy. But with Postecoglou, I don't want anyone else representing him, representing our football club. Like again, his tactics, I'm happy with them being criticised. I criticise them. I think it's ridiculous. But yeah, you got to go big. If you're going big on the pitch, you've got to go big in the market. You've got to back him with the right players, and otherwise it's a project that's set up to fail. And you've got so many people on Postecoglou's back. This is where he needs the backing of the board, and I just don't believe that's going to happen. I think he's been set up to fail, and I'm numb to it. Like I'm with Postecoglou until I see him with a finished article, and I see him with I'm not going to be Postecoglou out until I see him with a team that I know can compete with squad depth, but. And with the game changes, with that first 11, that strong first 11, that proper spine, these reinforcements in the window, but I just don't believe we're ever going to get it. So I'm just numb at the moment. I'm so numb. And the thing about the protests, I don't think it's going to force Levy out. I don't think he gives a fuck, but it could cause a reaction It could be like, well, I'll fucking show you how good of a chairman I am. I'll buy you Cunha and I'll buy you Buemo and I'll buy you and these players that still fit the structure, but they're in that place, that sweet spot that Ange Postecoglou was talking about at his press conference. Ange Postecoglou is probably desperate for him every time he talks about transfers in the meetings with Levy and Lange, and these players that aren't teenagers, that aren't 21, 22, that have a pedigree and experience, and they can come in and actually make an impact in the first team and rival these first team places. We shouldn't even be happy with just a good first squad. I mean, that didn't get us anywhere with Pochettino. We need to keep pushing on, even when we're getting to a point where we're nearly there, or when we are there. We need to know that we just need to. I just don't think I think the fans are just sick and tired, rightly so, and just lack so much belief that we're ever going to do anything with Levy in charge, because we're not. We're not. So Levy is coming out that Simon Jordan's got an interview coming out with Daniel Levy. I would rather rub sandpaper across my ball bag for 10 minutes than listen to that interview. Like, genuinely, it's going to be the most dick-sucking propaganda about Daniel Levy trying to back himself or trying to stand up for himself.
Yeah, otherwise he wouldn't have done it. There's no way he would have done it.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't take any accountability.
No, he feels safe knowing that. I mean, I've listened to TalkSport sometimes where Simon Jordan has criticised him, but for the most part, they are mates. They are literally mates. I can tell you that for a fact. They are mates. Everybody knows it. And yeah, they will. It will be a bit of a puff piece where there might be comments that Simon Jordan might make going, well, actually, the fans feel like this. But for the most part, it will be geared up to let him be defensive as he can and big himself up. It's just pointless, mate.
And you can see Simon Jordan just beating around the bush when he asks those questions. Like, he won't be direct. He'll sort of allude to certain worries and almost set the question up to let Levy back himself or to justify what he's doing. And again, Simon Jordan, he was a shit owner. He was a failed owner. Yeah. So like them in a room together, it's like it's going to be atrocious. I'm going to watch it.
Oh, well, yeah. We'll watch it.
Yeah, of course. I'll be there. But I know exactly how it's going to go. And I feel like when we do hear Levy talk, he's always saying the wrong things. Always. He's just so fucking clueless when it comes to what fans want. Because he's not a fan at the end of the day. He's a businessman. And he's a brilliant businessman when it comes to profit, etc. But yeah, it's frustrating. So lastly, I don't want to touch too much on Forest because the games are coming so thick and fast. Like, so be it. Let's go to Forest and see what happens, because that will be a really tough game. I want to talk about January because obviously we're so close. Going from after the 1st of Jan, I'm actually looking forward to seeing Yang come off the bench. I know, like, I'm not expecting anything. I'm really not expecting anything because he's so young. But I'd want something else other than Werner coming off the bench.
Well, people
like
are going
to it's a shining light, isn't it?
Yeah. Despite the fact that people are
for the future.
Yeah, despite the fact that people are like cynical about the transfer in itself, which I kind of think people need to grow up a little bit about. Despite the fact that we've been very critical of Levy, naturally, an 18-year-old kid coming off the bench instead of Werner, but he's going to get people more likely to. But come on, then let's go. Like,
You're back in the future, not a temporary, not a temporary sort of stay. I don't know, but when it comes to January, then what do you predict will happen? Do you think there will be some sort of reaction from Levy? Do you think he's going to block out the noise and sort of act the same as he usually does? Because I think January is always about stopgaps, which is fine if you need stopgaps, but we need like reinforcements. We don't need stopgaps. We do not need another Werner signing.
Yeah.
That being said, wouldn't mind like Skriniar on loan or some shit like that, or like, like that. I think maybe we do need some sort of experienced leader, but then Skriniar would not suit the way we defend. He's just an available transfer at all. So that we talk about the Longley signing. Can we, like, before Vuskovic comes in, do we need another long? I would still be frustrated with that because it does nothing. Like, we've seen Werner, and even if they do play well, it's almost like an excuse to go out and do the same thing again. Which, no, it's not a sustainable outlook or recruitment strategy at all. Do you expect? How many do you reckon? like looking at positions and profiles that of areas of pitch we need to strengthen, and it's a must. What are they, and what are you expecting?
Well, I don't know what I'm expecting, to be honest. I think we'll make some movement. Will it be enough? Who knows? Again, January's always hard to judge, but they need to do the right thing. I think we need another left back. I think we need another centre half, a midfielder, and a winger and a striker. We need everything. Fucking goalkeeper as well. We need a goalkeeper. It's just like we need one of everything. But that's not going to happen in January.
I think maybe like 2 signings where that players that can come in and they got maybe like just versatility about them. Someone who can play like left back and centre back, and then someone like a Cunha who will be expensive. It's not going to happen, but at least he could cover loads of positions on the like in the front line. Maybe even cover for Kulusevski. Like we need Swiss Army knives. I think because we're not. It's unrealistic that we're not going to sign. Probably won't even sign one, but like we're not going to sign 5 players to come in. We're not going to do that. So I feel like we need some. I know Cunha doesn't out and out like fit a profile in the squad. Well, he's not going to be like, okay, he's going to start right wing. It's not going to where we kind of need that sort of starter or etc. But it's someone that can just come in and give players a rest week in, week out. A bit more fresh legs, but. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not optimistic at all. One bit, I'm not. But I think we need another. Yeah, we need another 6. I think we need another. I think. Yeah, it's not looking good. But I think those that attacking player that can cover a lot, or just an out and out winger, and then and a hybrid left back centre back. I do, like you're saying earlier, I do think we need both, like a left back and a centre back. But I just don't see it happening. Obviously, we've got Vuskovic coming in. Let's see how he does. But even still, I think in the summer we still need to. I think we need to sell Dragusin and get a better, well-suited player. But it's a fucking mess, mate. Everyone, we're back after the Forest game. Enjoy it. Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Christmas, mate. Merry Christmas.
You too, mate.
And let's see what the results are going to be at Forest. Are you optimistic?
No.
We're only bagging a brace.
100%. Mate, we're 5 points off 4th though, so who fucking knows? We can turn this ship around. We can turn it around.
What would you do if Yang is like the best? He comes in, he's fucking unreal.
Then I'll lick Daniel Levy.
I'd be so happy.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Fuck knows. I think we'll probably lose to Forest or draw. Might be a good point there, to be fair, with how well they're playing.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, they beat Liverpool. They beat fucking Liverpool, and Liverpool beat us 6-3 at home. Exactly. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm actually really happy for Nuno. I don't think even in a perfect world, I still don't think I don't think he would have done anything at Spurs. But I'm just happy that he's had a good career after. Do you know
same.
So bad for him. Like, he was so out of his depth, but yeah, it's brilliant. Everyone, have a great Christmas.
Yeah,
Spurs.
All the best. Merry Christmas.